If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply the Law. I'm Keith Casebolt, my dear friend and the host creator of this show, Gary C. Johnson.
Wonderful to be here. Hello, guys and gals. How you doing? Thank you so much for letting us come and visit with you. We love to hang out, my good friends. And I hope again that this week that you folks didn't violate any of the rules, especially the one on assuming things. Did any of you assume anything? Any of you assume that maybe the person with you did or didn't do something without asking them whether they did? Of course you did. It's called imaginary slights, and they can't deal with them, so ask them. And you'll find out that there's nothing to be asking about. Okay?
Hey, I got to tell you something on this assuming. You talk about this little voice in our heads that you call the chatterbox, right? And this chatterbox voice gets you to assume all these bad things are happening. I was listening to an interview with the great Joe Namath, who won the Super Bowl and the football player. And he was talking about this voice in his head. And he said, this little voice just gets me into so much trouble. And I was in the car going, it's the chatterbox. It's the chatterbox. And the guy said, do you have a name for this voice? He said, oh yeah, I call him Slick. And I said, I've got to tell Gary that there's another name for this chatterbox, Slick. And Joe said, Slick tries to talk me into everything.
Well,
it gets me to assume everything.
Slick or chatterbox is never wrong. Now, what do I mean by that? You will be wanting to go work out or do some exercise. And you'll say, oh, I can do that tomorrow. I can do that little chatterbox. You don't have to do it right now. It's okay. You can do it later. It's going to be hard when you do it. You know, that's all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't exercise. You go do the exercise. The first thing that doggone scudder says, boy, I'm sure glad you did that.
Don't you feel better now that you got up and did it?
He can't lose. You can't deal with him. But anyhow, on our screen, on our new set, you'll see back there beside of me, that way, the symbols that says judo law. And you're wondering, what in the world is Gary doing? Is he taking up judo? When I first started practicing law years ago, I was a solo practitioner. I hung a shingle. And over the years, I developed my own technique of dealing with these large corporations and insurance companies and things like that. And the technique I was using actually resembled the martial arts judo, which is taking the strengths and the weight of all of the power that the person has and using it against them. So I developed a method to use that in my cases that I practiced. And I called it judo law simply because it was so much like judo, and I actually trademarked it with the government, the technique that I use. And I said, well, maybe I should tell the folks about my judo law. It's been very good to me over the years, and I had an extraordinarily, what I consider, successful record using this technique. So I decided to put it up on my thing.
Gary, when you talked about when you started and you hung the shingle, you were the guy that opened the door. You were the guy that turned out the lights and closed the door. You were going in up against these insurance companies, walking in with 4 or 5 lawyers. It truly was a David and Goliath thing at that time.
Oh, when I started, we had a typewriter with carbon paper. That's how long that has been. There was no machines. There were no computers. You were lucky if you had a phone. And if you had a phone, it was in your office. It sure wasn't in your pocket. Things have changed. I consider, actually, in my office, we have every bit of the modern technology that you could ever imagine. Because remember, folks, to change is to grow. To have changed often is to have grown much. So we did it. But I just wanted to tell you about that symbol. And I want to talk to you a little bit about something that's happened on a recall on a medical device. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back, and we're going to go to the computer, okay?
Stay with us, because the information that Gary's going to share with you after this break is going to be really important. And you may have a loved one or a friend in your community that has had this problem. We'll be back with Gary C. Johnson and Simply the Law right after this.
The other day, one of my friends called me and said, Gary, I was in a bad wreck, and you didn't call me. And I had to explain. No lawyer, even me, can call a person that's been in a wreck and ask them for their case. It is illegal. I want to represent you, but I'm not the one that can make that first call. It must be you. It's easy. Call pound hurt. I'm here. I want to represent you.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. I know you're going to talk about a product and tell our friends. Before you do, Gary, expand a little bit upon the fact that the information that you're going to bring about this product, how many products or medications or vehicles have been changed because an attorney said, wait a minute, we found out there is a problem with the product you're taking?
Vioxx, attorneys discovered that. Fen-Phen, the diet drug, attorneys. Seeing the problems, getting the information, exposing them, making them take the products off the market. We are the ones as the tattletales that tell to the public what happens when things go bad. It's how we make our living, for one thing. But just imagine, you'd still have Pintos on the road probably if it wasn't for lawyers. You probably wouldn't have seatbelts in cars. You wouldn't have airbags. But it's not the lawyers that did it. Well, but Gary, you just said lawyers did it. No. All lawyers did was make a report to the people that had some authority to do something about it, which is the local jury. The juries then took action, rendered verdicts, changes were made. All the lawyers did was make a report. Ultimately, it's up to 12 good, decent people to determine whether or not that report is accurate and whether or not something should be done about it. That's when the changes are made. They're made by juries.
So with just the products you mentioned, throw in asbestos and a few more, the jury sat there and said, this is taking millions of lives. We've got to correct this. And the only way they could correct it was by finding the companies at fault and making them pay for what they did.
That's right. Let's go to the computer. I got some stuff I want to talk to my friends about. There's our number in case any of you need to reach us. Website, GaryCJohnson.com. In general, please, my friends, make sure you have underinsurance that protects you and your family, because remember, I've said this every program, except last time.
Yeah.
Let's skip this one. Now, recalled products. Ethicon makes a product that's a stapler that is used in stomach surgery, gastrointestinal surgery. And as staples, instead of using stitches, they use staples to close the bowels or whatever back together. Recently, there's been a recall product from the FDA of some of those staplers. One is the endosurgery curved intraluminal stapler with adjustable height staples, and the other one is the endosurgery endoscopic curved intraluminal stapler with adjustable height. Now, does that mean anything to any of you? Nope, it doesn't. Let's go off the computer.
Yeah, I was going to say, most people would say, how in the world would I know what was possibly used on me during this procedure?
Your medical records will have in it. Okay. I need to talk to you about, if you know someone that's had surgery, gastrointestinal type surgery, and they had significant problems after the surgery, then more likely than not, they may have had one of these recalled staplers used on them. If that happened, they have a right to file a lawsuit against the people that sold this garbage and junk that the FDA had to recall. So if you know someone that's recently had stomach surgery of any kind that went wrong.
And Gary, when you say went wrong, exactly what could have happened?
Well, sepsis. That's where you get infection throughout your body. Bleeding internally. There's all kinds of things. In fact, I've got it on the PowerPoint, the different things that could go wrong. But first I wanted to explain to you what I just showed you when I gave you the fancy words for what has been recalled. So let's go back to the computer and let me talk to you some more about it. There's what they look like, the staplers. Won't tell you anything. Now here's the manufacturer dates that this is important. It was March 6, 2019 is when it was recalled, okay? The distribution dates was from March 15, 2018 to March 8, 2019, so it's within the last year. Actually, the devices were recalled in April 11, 2019, okay? They've been reported 366 deaths, 9,000 serious injuries, 32,000 malfunctions of these devices. I think there was over 92,000 of them that were sold during that period of time. And the failures are opening of the staple line or malformation of the staples, misfiring, difficulty in firing, failure of the stapler to fire the staples, misapplied staples. Now, what is the damages that this can cause? Bleeding, sepsis, that's infection throughout your body, tearing of internal tissues and organs, terrible thing to happen. Increase of the cancer recurrence if it was cancer surgery that you had in the stomach. Death. Several people, as you said, 366 people died from the use of these staples.
You know, what worries me about all this information you just shared with us, first of all, this procedure, whatever the procedure is a serious procedure. If you've had that kind of a surgery, then here's the patient saying, wait a minute, what went wrong? Why am I not getting better? Not knowing that the device that was used had been recalled.
And was manufactured with a defect. Now let's take a break and we'll come right back and I'll talk to you some more about this.
Pretty important information. Right now would be a good time to start thinking if you know someone in your community that has had this procedure and had problems. You may want to give them a call, tell them to tune in to Simply the Law right away. We'll be back with Gary C. Johnson right after this break.
I'm Gary C. Johnson. I saw a commercial from a large law firm where they said, we took 3 million calls last year. Woo-wee. You may want to give us a call at Pound Hurt, where instead of being one of 3 million, you will be treated as one of a kind. Pound Hurt. We're ready to represent you. Give us a call on your cell phone, Pound Hurt.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. You put out a lot of information about the damages, what could go wrong, the product. Okay, so our friends are at home right now and they're watching television and they're saying, Gary, how did this product ever get on the market? How did it ever get approved? Is it the doctor's fault for using this product? Is it the hospital's fault? Who should have known? I mean, those are legitimate questions.
The manufacturer that manufactured it should have known. The FDA, in approving it, relied upon the information given to it by the manufacturer. The FDA they don't do any testing themselves. They rely upon the reports from the manufacturer. So, the manufacturer did it. They messed it up. They put defects in these staplers. They harmed a lot of people. The company is Ethicon. And now lawyers like me, we're telling on them. And it's up to the jury to decide whether or not they're going to do anything about it, if it ever happens.
So your doctor or your surgeon has been told, hey, here's this new product. This product is good for you. This product is going to make the surgery better. It's going to help your patients, not knowing that there is a defect and not knowing that this product is going to cause more damage.
That's right. And then the doctors have to deal with it. Then Medicare or your insurance company has to pay all those extra bills to try to get it fixed. And then you may die from having had this surgery and it happened.
Gary, let me ask you.
It's a dominoes effect.
At some point in time, we've got to go through life and we got to trust. I mean, you've said before, if we didn't trust, we couldn't possibly get out on the highway. We couldn't do anything. We would never go to a hospital. There has to be a trust factor, and this has been breached.
We have absolutely no choice but to trust. Period. I can say you would never get in your car and go down the highway if you didn't trust the other people on the highway to obey the rules. Our safety rules. Stay on your side of the road. Don't drink and drive. There's rules. Does that mean people will abide by those rules? No, they don't. But that we in this country still have a system of justice set up to make people be held accountable that violate the rules. Manufacturers are supposed to manufacture products without defects. When they cause considerable harm to people, they have violated the rules. Therefore, they should be held accountable. The only way they can be held accountable is for someone to sue them. The people that file the lawsuits that hold them accountable are lawyers. There's nobody else that would file this lawsuit. It's lawyers.
So how does this whole process start? So a patient has either died, there's problems, there's continuous problems, and then finally somebody says, wait a minute, something had to go wrong here. I'm going to an attorney and I'm going to explain to them what happened to me and I'm going to get them to investigate.
If you know someone that maybe fell into this, have them get their medical records. The billing section of it will tell whoever looks at it, the lawyers or whatever, what type of staples was used. And there's a specific lot numbers that are in the recall that tells you whether or not that would have fallen within that. But you got to get your medical records and find out exactly what type of staple or stapler was used in your surgery or whether it was even used at all. And give our office a call. Get your records. We'll be proud to look at it for you. We'll be proud to sue them for you, my guy.
Let me ask you a question. When the recall happens, all these products are now off the table. They should not be in any hospitals at this point, right?
That doesn't mean they're not.
Even though it's been recalled, there is a possibility that it could be there.
Somebody may not have looked at it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I guess if you're going in for this type of surgery, be sure and ask them to check to make sure it wasn't recalled.
Oh my goodness, now that's a great point. You're sitting here talking about people who have had a surgery, who've been through a surgery, but there may be some people watching this program that are scheduled for a procedure.
Just ask them, hey, is this that Ethicon stapler that's been recalled? Ethicon is the name of the company.
Yeah.
Okay? Just ask them.
More and more today, you got to be an advocate, don't you?
For yourself. Let's take a break and we'll come right back.
All right, we got a few minutes left. We're going to talk to you more about the program, Simply the Law. He's Gary C. Johnson. Stay with us. We'll be back after this break.
The other day, one of my friends called me and said, Gary, I was in a bad wreck and you didn't call me. And I had to explain. No lawyer, even me, can call a person that's been in a wreck and ask them for their case. It is illegal. I want to represent you, but I'm not the one that can make that first call. It must be you. It's easy. Call pound hurt. I'm here. I want to represent you.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. That was some very valuable information, and I'm sure our people are writing down notes, but they can go to your website, GaryCJohnson.com, and get further information or call you if they need it.
I happen to decided to watch the news and some TV, and I saw all these commercials, lawyer commercials. Huh? You guys have never seen any lawyer commercials, have you? Not on your television, especially. And then it dawned on me, is how in the world would somebody watching those commercials know really and truly which lawyers maybe to choose? When you think about it, which one that they would want to hire. And I got to thinking, I said, well, who would know which lawyers are okay? I know because I'm a lawyer. I know which lawyers are fine, right? Because I'm in the profession. So I said, why don't I just brag a little bit myself? Because other lawyers across this country, primarily probably because of my judo law that I developed, have asked me to come to their states to teach them how I practice law. And I've got some examples here of all the different places that they've asked me to come and teach over the years, other lawyers. Las Vegas, 2 or 3 times I've been invited out there to speak to their car wreck seminars. Car wreck seminar, okay? I've been to the American Association of Justice Damages seminar, to where that we taught and had groups of people how to deal with damages in a lawsuit and what they need to do. I've been to the annual convention of the American Association of Justice and spoke there. I was one of 4 people that was invited to do the webinar on the think tank seminars. I taught at the AAJ truck seminar. I've been invited and spoke to the Arkansas trial lawyers, West Virginia trial lawyers, many times to the Kentucky trial lawyers, Indiana trial lawyers, Ohio trial lawyers, Montana trial lawyers. Several times I've been to Louisiana, to New Orleans, and spoke to the Louisiana Trial Lawyers Association. Just got back not long ago from the Dominican Republic, where I spoke for 3 days, believe it or not, teaching what I do to a group called the Primaris Lawyers, which consists of 200 law firms and 40 international law firms across the country for their annual convention. Me and one other fellow by the name of David Ball, a jury consultant, we put the entire program on for them. I've been to Atlanta, Georgia for AAJ many times. And that's enough, right?
Well, wait a minute. You started this out. I want to comment on it. You said, who really knows about the lawyer to choose? Is one of the reasons why we don't know is because we don't ever think we're going to need a lawyer. We're never going to be in a car wreck. We're never going to be hurt. We're never going to be one of those frivolous lawsuits. So we don't spend time researching. Is that a reason why?
And you can say anything people do in these commercials. That they're going to do this, they're going to do that, or whatever. But in the end, it's a serious decision if you've been hurt on which lawyer you choose, because I promise you, it will make all the difference in your recovery. One of these firms that's happened themselves as being the only one or whatever says in their ads, we've recovered $5 billion for 200,000 people. Well, you get your calculator out, their average is $25,000 a case. How many of those cases were 5 and 10,000 cases that they settled to make that average be? If you had $1 million case, it would take 200 of those $5,000 ones to make that average be 25,000 for that 5 million. That's not something I believe I would get on the air and brag about. Anybody wants to call us, we'll give you our average. And I promise you, it's a whole lot more than that.
Gary, you've also been pretty frank about this is a profession. And like any profession, you have really good professionals, and sometimes you have people that don't do a very good job at it.
It's not a business, it's a profession. It's still a profession, in my opinion. It has been turned into a business by several major law firms, but it is not a business. Every single client's case is different. You cannot set them up and handle thousands and thousands and thousands of clients the same way and represent each of those people the way they should be represented. It can't be done.
You were at the office the other day and you shared with me about an individual who had been horribly hurt, but had ended up with a firm that was kind of the conveyor belt thing and was getting nowhere. And this individual called you and said, "What's wrong?" And you looked at it and everything was wrong. It had been completely handled wrong. You took it over, and in a very short period of time, the damages were paid, and it was the right amount of money.
You know, I was looking over our average, and we have 12 attorneys in our firm. And each of those attorneys actually was able to process about, and do it exactly the way it ought to be done, about 50 cases last year. If you're talking to an attorney, and he's going to hire you, ask him how many cases he's got that he's having to handle. It's just not enough hours in the day to adequately represent an individual client if you're handling thousands of cases. Bigger is not better. It's not. It's a disaster for people that truly are hurt. So friends, when you're trying to decide to have your friends choose a lawyer, ask questions. Ask them how many verdicts they've got in the state of Kentucky. What is their track record in the state of Kentucky? That's the key to it. What is their stats, as you would say in a ball team, with a ball team? That's the key.
Yeah, you know, when I met you 20 years ago, I said, what makes the difference? And you said, Keith, any attorney can settle a case for $25,000. The problem is it could have been worth $1 million. And you pointed that out. It does make a difference.
And it takes a lot of individual hard work to determine the value of a case. It's not something you can just say, here's what it is. It's impossible,
my friend,
to do it right.
Thank you so much. Great information. The product that Gary talked about, you can go to GaryCJohnson.com and find out that information, or give him a call. He can give you the information. Thank you so much for tuning in. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. We look forward to seeing you next week on Simply the Law.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law, a program created by Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.